Alright, hello and welcome to a quick little live review slash opinion piece of Far Cry 5. It is of course the sequel to Far Cry 4, as you might expect, assuming we don't count Primal, I guess. But yeah, either way, I don't think we do. We just count the main games, don't we? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, correct? Sure. Anyway. So yeah, it's just gonna be kind of a quick, casual review slash opinion piece style of content in a live format. Pretty much as simple as that. I'm gonna have a quick look at the option menu to show you a little bit what it has available. It has most of what you would need available, I would say. You have these kind of like gameplay things if you want to. This is kind of weird. So this is like a. You can put your vehicle in auto drive and it will drive to the location you marked in your map, which is a bit unusual, but yeah. Otherwise there's a bunch of things like toggle and stuff like that if you want to toggle or not. There is not separate audio sliders, which is a bit annoying and unfortunate. I tend to prefer to be able to customize that, but never mind, it's not available here anyway. Otherwise there's a bunch of voice and subtitle chat things that you can sort of toggle around with that. Video, pretty much everything you need here, I would say. FOV as well, so it's all good. Then we have gamepad. These are not fully rebindable, as they usually aren't, but there is a little bit of customization actually, which is nice. I do like that. Sometimes it's completely static and just completely uncustomizable in any way, basically. But yeah, so there's a little bit of customization, which is nice. Keyboard and mouse, fully rebindable, no problems here. Mouse acceleration you can turn off, which is good. I like that. I don't like mouse acceleration. Mouse acceleration is bad, okay? You also have this, which is kind of... I really like this actually. So you can customize the zoom sensitivity, thank you, for all your different weapons, which is really nice. So... as well as the steering wheel as well. Ground steering wheel, yep. So these are really nice actually, I really like this. Although this one is for the keyboard, which is interesting. Keyboard sensitivity. Which does make sense, because otherwise you would have it on a controller, in which case you can kind of slightly tilt it, obviously, to right and left. That's obviously not how you use the keyboard. You just have to do full throttle, either to left or right, and this will indicate how much full throttle is, I suppose. So yeah, that's nice. But yeah, I really like that customization of that. That's pretty much it though. Other than that, third party for like eye tracking and kind of binocular gaze. Oh yeah, that's for eye tracking, right? Well, so if you have third-party stuff, then that's for that, obviously. I don't. I play games like a normal person, for the most part. I would say. As much as I have time for, anyways. Oh yeah, interface. So there's a bunch of customization for the HUD as well, which is very nice, obviously, to have. So you can turn off most of the various HUD heads-ups and trackers and so on and so forth, basically. So yeah, without any further ado though, I'm going to jump into the game and show a little bit about what's going on, so let's do that. Let's go. Alright, so I am currently in New Game Plus, which means that I will have access to essentially most weapons as well as abilities in the game. But I will be early in the game when it comes to the story, so I will be able to showcase a rather reasonable and representative picture of the different mechanics and gameplay the game offers, basically, but still not spoil too much when it comes to story. So I think that's a pretty reasonable way to kind of showcase the game, I would say. Sub. It doesn't mean necessarily I'm going to showcase every single weapon and ability in the game, I guess, but at least I'll be able to give you a relatively representative view of what the game has to offer, I believe. So that should be pretty reasonable, I think. Okay, so when it comes to Far Cry 5, it is very much the sort of expected Far Cry experience that you probably are familiar with if you played anything, well, basically Far Cry 3 and beyond, I would say. Since Far Cry 3 essentially established the kind of fundamental framework for how Far Cry basically plays, and the way it's structured, and the gameplay mechanics of the game, and so on and so forth. The overall sort of framework for it. And Far Cry 5 is very much follows this kind of formula. It has many of the same or similar kind of mechanics, while adding a few of its own. But most of the mechanics that you have seen in the previous games will make every appearance here. So it's nothing that's especially revolutionary or surprising in that sense, really. So I'm not going to do this camp right now. I just can't be bothered. Not now. Can do one of those later. So some of the biggest difference in this game compared to the previous games is, one, how the missions are kind of structured, and side missions, and how side missions and main missions play into each other, as well as how the sort of leveling system works. This is a side objective, it looks like, by the way. These are very small and not super important, but yeah. Civilian rescue. There you go. Anything else? No? Alright. So let's take one thing first. So let's start with the kind of way the game is structured in way of missions. So the game is essentially separated or segregated up into 3 different sections, as you see here. These are the main antagonists for each section, and then there's one kind of main antagonist, I guess, or the primary villain, or whatever you want to call him, which is this guy here. He's inaccessible until you've completed all the other ones, as you see there. It's locked. The way you kind of progress in this game is by doing side missions, essentially. When you have done enough side missions or side objectives, which can be anything from something small like destroying cult property, blowing things up, kind of Just Cause style, or just normal missions that's like side missions, essentially. Someone asks you to, I don't know, collect something or free someone from a containment camp thing. I don't know, it can be whatever, really, a standard kind of side mission. Those kind of actions will give you resistance points. When you get enough resistance points, you will basically, as you see, they're indicated by these kind of points or dot points in the progression bar there. When you get enough of these, you will basically trigger the next mission or the next story mission that you will be able to take on, or that you will automatically take on, depending on which region you are located in, I believe. I think most regions actually just basically force you to directly take on the next main mission when you have reached the point, basically the next progression point there. So that's pretty much forced. Yes. So that's kind of the difference. Obviously that's kind of different from the previous games, because the previous games had the kind of more conventional, this is side missions, this is main missions. You can either complete the main missions and just do the game's main missions, or you can go for all the side missions and do the side paths. But that was obviously more like a choice, right? Either you do side missions, which doesn't affect the main missions, or you do the main missions and maybe you don't bother with side missions. In this game, doesn't really work the same way. If you do enough side missions, you are going to progress to the main mission, obviously, for example. So if you take this region, for example, if I continue doing main side missions in this region, I can't continue doing side missions as much as I please and destroying all the camps and liberating them and destroying his property and so on and so forth without anything happening, right? So it is automatically going to throw me into a main mission if I continue doing that. So I can't just avoid doing the main missions and just do side missions for a long time. They are basically interconnected in that way. So that's a bit of a difference between this game and the previous games. Other than this, this is journal. This just lists all the different items. What? All the different quests you have. Pretty simple. Nothing special there really. Here are your companions. These guys can help you out and basically fight alongside you. Not that much more to say about that. Companions, simple as that. They have obviously a little bit different abilities. One of these guys have like a helicopter, I think. She, for example, she has a helicopter. So they have, this guy has a plane instead. This one is a sharpshooter, and so on and so forth. Basically, there's different specializations. There's nothing especially weird about that, I guess. Different companions with different specializations there. The way you get these companions is by completing quests. And then we have the leveling system. So the leveling system in this game is somewhat different from the previous games. If you look back at, for example, Far Cry 3, you had a normal XP system. You kill enemies, you get XP. You do more complicated kills, you get more XP. You level up in that sense, right? In this game, it doesn't work in the same way. In this game, you have these challenges instead. So these challenges is things like kill a number of enemies with a certain weapon, or it can be things like hunt a certain animal. Let's see here. This one is obviously connected to your companions instead, so use said companion to do a number of kills. Here you go. This is just hunting objectives and missions as well. All these missions will give you a certain amount of perk points, as you see here. And these are the points you use to level up your character, which you do here. And this space is basically, it is pretty similar to how it looks in previous games. You basically just buy these perk points, right? Anything from more inventory space, more ammunition space, takedowns, and so on and so forth. There's two big-ish differences between this and, for example, Far Cry 3. One of them is that they bundle everything together here. So, for example, additional weapon holsters and stuff like that, that's perk points now. That's no longer, there's no crafting system in this game. Everything is basically connected to your levels. There is no progression outside of the levels as well, of course, as the weapons you purchase. So there is some economy, of course, as well. But there is no crafting or anything like that. Quiet. Yeah. Which it's a bit of fortunate, I feel. I honestly preferred to have crafting system. It gave a little bit more of a purpose to hunting. In this game, the only reason you hunt is to sell the skins, so it's purely economical at this point. Economical at this point. There is no reason aside from just earning money, which obviously you can earn through a number of other different ways, which means that the kind of importance of hunting is significantly lessened. Which is a little bit unfortunate, I feel. I prefer to have more kind of incentives to hunt, honestly. I found it relatively enjoyable. I like that system, actually. It wasn't super complicated in Far Cry 3, for example, but I think it was well balanced to not make it excessive and overburdening. It wasn't a survival game still, you know. You didn't go to the Rust level of crafting, but it still had a little bit of an aspect of crafting, which I did enjoy. I think it was rather well balanced. It was pretty simple, but still incentive giving, I suppose. Another thing that's a little bit different is that a bunch of these different kind of upgrades here, for example, this one, so it bundles together a bunch of different basically perk effects. At least some of them do. Some of them are very kind of normal in the same way that or non-bundled or whatever, you know. Some of them looks basically the same as it did in previous games. This one, for example, just gives you more HP, nothing else. This one, though, is, for example, chained together, bundled together, chain, melee, and side-down words. chain, melee, and sidearm takedowns into one perk, and they just said it costs 6 instead of separating it out. Don't know why. Obviously, they could have separated out and said, okay, 2 points for each of these, and then just 3 different points. But for some reason, they decided it was better to bundle up for some reason. So there you go. When it comes to the inventory system, it's a bit odd. Basically, everything works in the same way that, for example, ammo does for most games, in that you can have a certain amount of whatever it is of each item. But that kind of principle applies to everything in this game. So the same goes for components, the same goes for skins and things you sell as well. So I can have a certain number of bison skins, and then I will be able to have a certain number of black bear skins. But these things doesn't affect each other. So it doesn't like, oh, you filled up your inventory with bison skins, so you can't carry any more salmons or whatever. That's not how it works. You can keep a number of each, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So you'll be able to keep a certain number of bison skins, which doesn't affect other skins. Yeah, I believe that's how it works. And the same goes for everything here. Components, these are obviously used for either crafting drugs or crafting certain equipment such as bombs or whatever. And then we have these homophatics. Homophatics. Yes. These are essentially syringes, it's buffs. There's nothing special about those, really. Different word, but the same kind of idea and concept and function on those. So that's how the kind of leveling system works, and the inventory as well. So that should pretty much cover here. You have a little bit of customization, which is nice, I guess. This is mostly obviously relevant when you play for co-op, with the exception of this one, which is really nice. I do appreciate when first-person games does have customization for your gloves and hands. Obviously that is one of the very few things that you will actually see a decent amount of, almost persistently, as you play. So I really appreciate the fact that they actually have a number of different gloves here. In my opinion, hand customization is clearly the most important part of customization in first-person games, aside from the weapons, obviously. So yeah, I do appreciate that. Then we have the arcade. This is basically the last thing we have to cover here. The arcade is kind of disconnected from the game itself. I believe finishing missions in the arcade can give you like a number of perk points, basically. But other than that, it's pretty much disconnected from the game itself. This is separate, independent maps that you can play, which obviously adds a bunch of content to the game, which is really cool. It also has an editor, which means you can make your own maps here and share them around and give them to your friends and play through your different maps and so on and so forth. So that's pretty cool. Then obviously I have co-op, which this game supports. It has co-op within the main story game and the kind of main game content as well. It is a co-op games in that sense. I also want to note that this is not the only way you can get points. There is a few other ways. One of the ways is by going through a little bit of a few of these. Let's see if I can find one of these. Do I have one of these there? Not right now. I should be able to find one soon though. There's stashes in these games. There's stashes in this game, which if you complete the mini challenge which the stash entails, which usually is something like breaking into a house and solving some kind of mini environmental puzzle essentially, and those will give you usually a certain amount of money as well as perhaps a number of perk points and a well, it can be a weapon or a car or something like that as well. I'm gonna save this guy.
Excuse me. There's an old veteran who lives just over there. Can't move very well anymore. I hope he's not in any trouble. I'd feel much better if you looked in on it.
Cool. So yeah, saving civilians not only gives you a little bit of perk points, as you see there are perk points, gives you a little bit of resistance points, which will progress your main story kind of progression, I guess, or your progression towards the main story. But it will also sometimes give you a little bit of a hint as to some other kind of missions or information regarding loot or something like that. Wasn't it a... There we go, map. Gives me a hunting spot information. All the way over there, thanks. That's important. Let's see here. Let's go for one of these. Let's go for that one. And I can show you how it plays when you try to take over a camp as well, or encampment perhaps. I'm playing this on a kind of, I don't know, hardcore difficulty or something. Apparently there's a difficulty which you can only go with. No. Well, he's dead. There's apparently a difficulty which you can only play on if you actually play, if you're playing New Game Plus. So if you restart, which I guess is supposed to compensate by the fact that you obviously have all the weapons and the upgrades already. And that's the one I'm playing right now. I don't know how difficult that will be. Ow. I haven't played much on this. I've rather recently started here. As you see in the map, there's very little that's actually explored. So I have no idea how this is gonna play. Collectible, wonderful. As you see there though, I got a perk point, so I picked up one of those perk point magazines and got a perk point from that. So that's cool. Destroying that will give me a little bit of XP as well. I actually don't want XP right now because that's going to trigger the main mission, which I don't want to do because I don't want to spoil the main story, and it's kind of unnecessary as well, so I don't think I'm going to do that. In fact, I'm just going to leave this region since I am, yeah, I'm pretty close to triggering the first point there, so let's just go to this one. These regions are of course separated, so if I complete missions up here, it doesn't affect what's going on out here. I'm gonna fast travel here. Let's do airdrop. And then I'll be able to use my... that's a skill, by the way. And I can just fly with my wingsuit when I do that. Sure. Cool. Yeah, when it comes to overall kind of abilities and equipments and stuff like that, most of what you find will be things that obviously existed in the previous games, so basically everything is reintroduced and makes an appearance here as well. So we have the wingsuit, we have the parachute, we have a grappling hook, which obviously existed in Far Cry 4, and so on and so forth. So it is a familiar experience if you play the previous games, especially if you played any of the recent previous games. There should be a thing here actually. I think there is a stash over there, so let's get that under the bridge or on that bridge basically. And I'm gonna show you kind of how one of those stashes can play out. Again, the stashes are sort of parkour challenges or environmental challenges or whatever. A bit of a mix of those basically. There you go, as you see. Swingers is what this one is called. Just pick this up and there you go. Track it as well. Not that it really matters much. Kill him. No. Stop it. Oh, what the hell? No. No. Medkit. Okay, well, you know what? You have fun with that. Is it obnoxious when a giant puma, tiger, cougar thing just attacks you from behind? That's always an annoying thing. There we go. Okay. So this one seems to be grappling hook focused, so there we go. Yeah. Pretty fun. I do like the grappling hook. It's pretty fun to use, honestly. Let's see to it that I really have a law swing here. Whoop. Nice. And go through here. Find your way through. There we go. And this is kind of how a stash might look. So there's a bunch of items. Maybe you have a weapon here, for example, as you find here. A bow in this case. As you saw, there's a bunch of skill magazines. Some materials. Usually there's a bit of money as well, but doesn't seem to be this case. So that's fine. Well, so that's basically the stash, how those usually look. Cool, let's go on to a encampment over there now, shall we? I can actually check with the kind of merchant over there as well. So merchants can actually pop up all over the place, but they are also stationary merchant in your kind of encampments as well. It doesn't matter which one you go to, they are all basically the same.
Come on, little critter. We better shoot that thing back.
The heck? Freaking skunks. Skunks suck, by the way. Did you know that? Keep away from them. You're essentially evil. And often comes and tries to spray you for no reason whatsoever. Something else is a bit different in this game, that for some reason they decided that all the... That is a bad dog. I don't know why it's acting in the way it does. That dog was almost certainly glitched for some reason. I want to trade. So this is how the shop looks. You can sell your loot. This is some kind of mix between premium currency and non-premium. You can find silver bars in small quantities as you go through the game, but they are rather rare, and your primary purpose of using silver bars is by purchasing special weapons, so like skins and stuff like that. Mostly just various kinds of skins and visual things. It is a bit weird. It feels... I never like to have like in-game stores or whatever, real money stores in single-player games, even if it's a co-op game technically, but it is not particularly intrusive. It's not a big deal, honestly. You can buy these for silver bars as well if you want to. So, but yeah, it's mostly just skins and visual items, I suppose. And then we have these then. So these are the weapon shop, right? It's a decent amount of weapons. It's something worth noting is that some of these weapons are the same, actually. So for example, these two are identical. They just look different, but statistically, as you see here, this is the same weapon. They just look different. Another example of this is this one. This one, this one, and this one have the exact same stats. So yeah, this is basically one gun with 3 different skins. But they separated up into 3 different weapons for some reason. It's a bit weird, but it's something worth keeping in mind. So it looks like there is more weapons than there actually is in this game. At the same time, there is a decent amount of weapons. So there is still 4 different shotguns. This one is very similar to this one, but it's very, very slightly different. And then we have prestige shotguns as well. So these are also a little bit different, obviously, than these ones. 1887, I don't think that even exists, right? Oh. So this one is obviously a completely unique weapon as well. The good thing is that the prestige weapons can be bought with normal currency. You don't need silver bars or anything like that, so at least that's appreciated. Otherwise that'd be actually rather obnoxious, I have to say. So yeah. Otherwise, there's a decent range of different weapons, for sure. There's a number of unique weapons, as well as a decent number of normal weapons as well. So yeah, sniper rifles. Nothing all that odd here, really. And then we have the kind of more unique weapons, such as a bow, flamethrower, this kind of thing. I don't know, this one is kind of weird. It's like a close range force gun, I guess. Launchers, bows, machine guns. So there we go. Nothing particularly complicated there. All weapons, actually I can show that as well, I guess. When it comes to all these weapons as well, if you... I can just take one of these, so let's take this one. This one looks pretty cool. World War II, why not? Yeah, so as you see here, as it has been in previous games, basically all weapons are customizable as well, so you can add a sight, suppressor, magazines, or extended magazines and so on and so forth. And different weapons will have access to different attachments, basically. So this one, for example, does not have the silencer attachment because the silencer is actually pre-attached. But some weapons just don't have a attachment of a certain type. This one, for example, obviously doesn't have an extended magazine because it's double barrel shotgun. You can't really extend the magazine on this one. That wouldn't make sense, obviously, so yeah. I'm just gonna put this one here. I think that makes sense. Buy an extended magazine as well, why not? And then obviously camo, which, well, same as in previous games basically, when it comes to the attachments and the customization in that sense. So yeah, that's still there. Cool, works well, all good. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, other than that, the experience is very much the kind of template experience that you would expect from a Far Cry game at this point in time. Now, Far Cry 6 is a little bit different, so if you only play Far Cry 6, this might be a little bit different from that one, if you never played another Far Cry game that is previous to this one. But otherwise, yeah, it does follow the formula rather faithfully, I suppose you could say. So yeah, it is very much the Far Cry experience you would come to expect if you played the recent previous games such as Far Cry 3 and Far Cry 4 and Blood Dragon and so on and so forth. And mechanically, obviously, thematically it's different. Another thing that doesn't exist in this game, well, that does exist in this game but didn't exist in previous games, is airplanes and helicopters though. And I think I want to showcase those a little bit further on as well. Yeah, I'm just gonna take down one of these, sort of. That went well. The driving is still very good. It is as good as it was in previous games. Since Far Cry 3, the game has had good driving, honestly. The vehicles do feel good. They have weight to them. They can drift and stuff to some degree as well. So yeah, they do feel well. Good, basically. They're very solid. It has solid driving mechanics. It's not a racing game, but they feel good overall. But yeah, the core Far Cry experience is here. It is a open world with freedom of approach when it comes to most aspects of the game. The main missions tends to be a little bit more restrictive or linear in how you approach them, as it's been in previous games as well. And just in general in games it tend to be a little bit more restrictive when it comes to the main missions when it's an open world game. But when it comes to the side missions, as well as obviously the encampments and such, it's basically complete freedom in how you want to approach it and what direction you come from and so on and so forth. It's very much the same here as it's been in previous Far Cry games, which is really cool, and it's a very core part of the Far Cry experience that I truly enjoy. I like the fact that you can basically approach things in however you wish, in whatever way you wish. So that's really cool. One thing I actually don't particularly love about Far Cry 5 is the fact that they changed the kind of takedowns to a melee system. Not only do you actually have the ability to just beat someone normally with like a melee weapon as a primary weapon, which is kind of just weird and it doesn't really add much in my opinion. This cat is terrible. It does not know how to kill anything apparently. Just runs around like, I mean, what are you doing? What are you doing? That cat is terrible. Good God. Anyway, the take, it does have a melee system now, which is kind of weird again, because I don't really see a purpose of that. Why you would want to ever really equip a melee weapon as a primary weapon feels a bit weird. It's not particularly useful for the most part. Not as far as I'm concerned, at least. Additionally, the kind of takedowns are also based on melee weapons, so you just bop someone on the head with like a spade, or you break their neck or something like that, as opposed to having the kind of, in my opinion, really cool and kind of... What the fuck? Not sure what happened there. Okay, yep, Jesus Christ. Okay. Ouch, I didn't see him. I don't know what happened there. Usually you are supposed to do a kind of takedown when you jump on people in Far Cry. That's how the game is supposed to work. Don't know what that didn't work there, so try again, I suppose. But yeah, that's very odd. Alright, let's give this another try then, shall we? Maybe it works better. Yeah. Otherwise, there isn't all too much more to say about the game, honestly, because it is so similar to the previous Far Cry games and Far Cry experiences. I think I've gone through the biggest differences and divergences when it comes to how the game plays when compared to other Far Cry games or previous Far Cry games. And as you saw there, that was the kind of takedown that exists in this game. I mean, they're fine, I guess. I guess it's like sort of obviously a preference thing, but I much prefer the kind of neat melee takedowns in Far Cry 3 with the machete as opposed to... That guy is mutilating a dead body. Cool. I really appreciated the kind of neat, sleek melee takedowns with a machete in like Far Cry 3 compared to the melee takedowns in this one, but that's a personal preference thing. In this game, obviously, it's with a blunt weapon or with your knuckles or bare hands, basically. So you break their neck or bop them on the head with a shovel or something like that. And that just goes throughout the entire game. So like the kind of throw weapon melee takedowns you also throw a, like, I don't know, some kind of thing the guy you take down carries as well, which usually is some kind of, I don't know, wrench or something like that, as opposed to a knife. I don't know, it looks cooler and sleeker and more, I don't know, Spec Ops to throw a knife or machete, in my opinion, I guess, but again, that's just me. I'm doing really poorly here. I guess I'm just not good at speaking and playing at the same time, which, yeah, no, that's clearly how things are working out right now. Dick. Yeah, the kind of down mechanics is a mechanic that existed in Far Cry 2 as well, where you could basically down someone and wait for their friends to try to go and rescue them. It's not going well right now. Please die. Thank you. When it comes to the story of the game, it is pretty solid. It's totally fine. The kind of antagonists are not quite as good as Far Cry 3, I would say. Vaas is a exemplary villain. He really is. He's quite exceptional, honestly. He is both very well crafted and very well presented, honestly. Voice acted, basically it's just a stellar presentation for that guy. But it also makes it kind of unfair to compare other villains to him. It's kind of like Handsome Jack in Borderlands 2. He's just a great villain, it's hard to compare. Seems he was focused on some kind of animal instead of me, which was kind of stupid, but anyways. That will do it for the encampment, I think. So there you go. And then you get this kind of capture animation finish thing. Obviously you can do it completely stealth as well, but well, that didn't work out too well, did it? But yeah, should have been more careful, I suppose. You do get a little bit of a bonus when you do that as well. Clear a encampment in stealth or completely undetected. So yeah. Anyways, that fulfilled the requirement for the next kind of trigger point there, which means that if I enter this area, it's going to trigger the story mission there. So I don't want to do that yet, because obviously, again, I don't really want to spoil that. That's pretty much it though. That's more or less what I wanted to cover in this game. I am going to skip forward a little bit and show you a little bit of flying with our airplane, as well as a little bit of fishing, and I'm just gonna skip forward to that. So I'll see you like in, I don't know, 2 seconds, I guess. Here we go. Plane. There we go. Sneaky bastard takes your plane. Or steals it. Bye. Oh yeah, it's gonna be telling me to do a bunch of little actions here. So. The planes in this game acts rather well, I would say, for the most part. You can do the kind of tilting it as well as doing a little bit more. They're not super difficult to fly. I wouldn't say they are quite as difficult as they are in something like Battlefield, but decent enough. And they are obviously not like armor or anything like that. Pretty simple, but they still feel like planes, right? They don't feel like, I don't know, flying tanks or whatever. They still feel like planes for the most part, I would say. Same with the helicopters, they feel fine. But they are pretty simple to control. But anyways, yeah, this is how planes fly. So there we go. So let's skip forward to some fishing. Also, this is blowtorch, obviously, to repair vehicles. These are the syringes or buffs that you can use. So yeah, that's what this is, if you're curious. So that's just consumables as well as some MISC stuff. slowly pull the line, hook, and then you actually see a little bit of tutorial there. Yeah, you basically just reel in the fish by dragging in the opposite direction to the way it's pulling while reeling it in. If your line gets red, it starts to almost break, you basically stop reeling and it will cool down, and then you rinse repeat basically. Simple as that. Not particularly complicated. Boom, boom. Yeah. Alright, I think that more or less does it. Overall conclusion, if you like Far Cry, yeah, I'd say this is a pretty decent game. It does what you might expect, or what you would expect from a Far Cry game. It's still a really good story, even if it's not quite as exceptional as Far Cry 3, in my personal opinion. You're also a little bit more responsible for basically everything that happens in this game, because how everything starts is by you going in trying to basically arrest this religious fanatic, right? And basically instigate a religious war, and everything that happens henceforth is basically because of you. You could have just walked away and called in the military and the National Guard takes care of it. In fact, that's an option. You can choose that and the game just ends and it's like, ah, okay, cool, awesome, everything works out. But obviously you don't do that. To be able to play the game, you will have to start basically a religious war, which is a little bit irresponsible, I suppose, but anyway. You're also a silent protagonist in this game, which obviously is not the case for 3, 4, or 6, in fact. In Far Cry 2, you were a silent protagonist. You did not speak in Far Cry 2. So it has varied a little bit. For some reason they went back to having a speaking protagonist in 6. Maybe it wasn't that well received in 5, I don't know. Or maybe some other artistic reason, who knows. Yeah. I think it's about time to wrap this up. So, yeah. Far Cry 5 is a very solid entry into the Far Cry franchise. Delivers the kind of expected. Also, skunks are assholes. All around a very solid open world first person shooter experience. I'm happy to say that it very much is a high quality Far Cry game. If you like Far Cry, I have a hard time seeing why I wouldn't recommend it. And with nothing more to be said, maybe I'll see you next time. And stay away from skunks.